Alright, so this video lecture covers slides from 12 to 17. So we will use the CVP to help Emma to make decisions. So the first thing is Emma believes that she can sell 40 packages. Okay, so you can go ahead and find the operating income and the contribution margin. Now she is very concerned with this sales. She would like to improve the sales, maybe sell more packages. So one method she's thinking of is how about advertising. So let more people know about this product, okay, so that she might be able to have an increase in sales. Of course, it's not free. So the fair brochure will cost her $500, okay, to advertise the GMAT success. So now the question is whether it is worth doing that or not. Okay, so the first possibility is Emma thinks the advertising will increase sales by 10%, so from 40 to 44 packages. Okay, now should she advertise? What if by 20%, so from 40 packages to 48 packages? Okay, so basically she has to decide whether it's worth. So we're looking at a very interesting issue here. In business world, we often make decisions based on cost of benefits. Okay, normally there's nothing free. Okay, so definitely you have to have sacrifice. The question is outcome. Okay, how much benefits you can have? Will benefits offset the cost invested in the beginning? Okay, so that's basically the question here. So now let's look at how we can help Emma to make such decision. Okay, I'm going to pull out Excel. So first, let's look at if Emma believes that the advertising will increase the sales by 10% to 44 packages. So basically, she can sell 4 more packages. Okay, will this actually justify cost benefits so that she can decide. Okay, she can decide if it is good cost benefits, then she may go ahead and pay $500. If it's not worth, then definitely not. So first, I'm gonna look at cost benefits. Okay, so when we look at a cost, we're looking at $500. Okay, so Emma has to pay $500 to advertise the packages. Okay, so now the benefits is we're looking at 4 extra packages. Actually, 4 extra packages. Let me make this wider. So 4 extra packages mean how much money? This is something we really care about, because if we know that the amount of extra profits, we might be able to make a decision. Okay, if the extra profit by selling 4 extra packages is available, then we can compare that with 500, then to decide. Okay, so now let's think about for 4 extra packages, how extra revenues, how extra profits we're gonna get. All right, so that's an interesting issue to look at. So first of all, for 4 extra packages, okay, revenues, we're looking at how much? We're looking at $200 multiplied by basically 4 packages. So we're looking at 800 extra revenues. Okay, so there are some costs we have to take care of. For example, for every extra package Emma sells, she has to pay the publisher $120. Okay, this is still the same question, same condition, so you can go back to review the original information. Basically, we're looking at 4 packages multiplied by 120. Okay, so we're looking at $480. So therefore, the net benefits, okay, or you can call that additional operating income, okay, either way, is the difference between 800 and 480. So you can use 800 to subtract 480. So we're looking at 320 net benefits or additional operating income. So I'm going to put the 320 here, either way. So now if I compare 320 to 500, okay, so by the way, this is, we're looking at a 10% of increase in sales. Okay, so I would say not worth it. Okay, so I would put a no advertising. Okay, no advertising. Now what if 20%? Okay, what if 20%? If Emma can sell 20% extra packages, say 8 more packages, would that justify, okay, advertising? Okay, maybe, you know, she should reconsider. Okay, maybe she should reconsider. So now let's come here. So it's the same here. I'm going to put the cost and benefits. So we're looking at 500 additional costs. Okay, and the benefits, let me put S here, and total cost, additional costs. So for the benefits, we're looking at 8 extra additional packages. Okay. So similarly, we have revenues. Okay. The costs. Okay, and net. Benefits, okay, and additional. So for the revenues, we're looking at $200, okay, multiplied by 8 packages, so it's 1,600. For the cost, the publisher charges $120 per package, so we have 8. Okay, so the net benefits is the revenue minus the variable cost we have here. Okay, so additional, we're looking at 640. So apparently 640 is bigger than 500, so I would say worth it. Okay. Then I would encourage Emma to advertise. Okay, to advertise the products. Pay $500, and she can earn additional operating income. Okay, so definitely that's justified. Okay, you let me just mention one thing before we move to the next slide. If you look at costs and revenues, so for the revenues, that's pretty straightforward. For the costs, we're looking at a variable cost, actually variable cost. So the revenues minus variable cost, the 320, that's contribution margin in total. Okay, so so therefore you can also use the contribution margin to find the net benefits, additional operating income. As a matter of fact, whenever you have increase in sales, okay, then the extra on additional operating income in total is nothing but the extra additional contribution margin in total. Keep that in mind. Okay. So this is our first. The second is, in addition to advertising the products, Emma can also think about the second option. How about reduce the selling price? Maybe clients, many clients have the problem of affordability. Okay, they consider $200. That's too expensive for them to afford. Okay, maybe there are many other competitors. They offer some cheaper materials. Okay, cheaper materials. So that can be an issue for Emma. So Emma, in this case, she thinks, how about reducing the selling price to boost the sales, to sell more by reducing the price. So she believes that at the price $175, she can sell 50 units, so 10 units more. The question is, should she reduce the price? Okay, should she do it twice? Okay, so now let's look at the question here. So now she has to make decision. Okay, so 40 packages. Okay, and 50 packages. Okay, she can sell 40 packages at $200. Okay, she can sell 50 packages at $175. Okay, and let me put some information here. I would put units and price and variable cost per unit. I think it's still 120. Okay, and fixed costs, we're looking at 2,000. Okay, Emma still has to pay 2,000 to rent the booth, okay, to sell packages. Okay, so with all the information here, okay, which option should Emma consider? Should she keep the $200 price, or she should reduce the $200 price selling price to $175 to sell more? And that's going to be the issue here. It's pretty common practice in business world. Okay, so either you sacrifice the contribution margin a little bit, okay, but you have a volume increase in the sales, okay, to offset the loss in contribution margin. Okay, so that's a problem. All right. So as a matter of fact, you may have seen the we call the relevant information. So when you try to compare two options, okay, don't compare the common information. For example, it's not interesting to compare the fixed cost. We're looking at 2,000, exactly the same number. So don't bother. Okay, don't bother. Okay. So how about the variable cost? Variable cost, that's also common. Okay. So in this case, because the fixed costs, okay, fixed costs don't change. So all we have to compare is basically contribution margin in total. Okay, so now let's compare the contribution margin in total. Okay, so for 40 packages, the contribution margin total is 40 packages multiplied by the contribution margin per unit. Okay, and the 40 packages sales. So we're looking at 200 minus 120. Okay. So the result is 3,200. For 50 packages, we're looking at 50 multiplied by 175 minus 120. Okay. So now we're looking at 2,750. Now the comparison is clear that 40 packages, okay, will generate more contribution margin in total. Okay. So 50 packages, although Emma sells more, but it's not enough to pick up the profit, okay, the contribution margin as well. So the final conclusion is Emma should not drop the price. Emma should stick to the 40 packages still. So now we're going to keep the 40 packages, keep the $200 price, okay, and drop this option. Okay, so this is second possibility. Okay, so the third question talks about determine the target price. Okay, so let's assume that Emma wonders, okay, at what price she can sell 80 units. Okay, still purchased at $120 per unit from supplier, and continue to earn an operating income of 1,200. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Emma has two goals. Number one, sell 80 units. Number two, earn operating income of 1,200. So she wonders at what price. Okay, at what price. Okay, so for this question is kind of interesting because now you have operating income and the number of units. Now you have to go back find the price So you can basically draw the diagram to find all the information together. So the price is connected to the following concepts. Okay. revenues, contribution margin, okay, per unit, okay, and total contribution margin if you also know the number of how many numbers, okay, being sold. All right. So we're looking at this issue, okay. Then for the contribution margin, okay, from there we know that we can use that to find the operating income, okay. So now you can see that the question becomes pretty clear. You have the operating income, which is associated with the contribution margin. All you have to know is, okay, I need to know fixed costs, right? If I know the fixed cost, okay, and I know 2 out of 3, I can find the third one. And this formula, you know the operating income and you know the fixed cost, you can find the contribution margin, okay. And for the contribution margin, you can find out contribution margin per unit. Just divide the contribution margin by the number of units. Then from the contribution margin per unit, you can go back to the selling price because you know the variable cost and so on. So after looking at the diagram, connecting all those concepts, I'm pretty sure this should be the pretty easy direction for us to find the selling price. So what do we need to do is, first of all, let's find contribution margin, okay. Sorry, I think I should have put the T here. Contribution margin. Okay. For the contribution margin, what you can do is you look at the question. We do know the operating income of 1,200, and also we know that the fixed cost in total, the rent for the booth, that's 2,000. Therefore, the contribution margin in total is going to be 2,000 plus 1,200. So we're looking at 3,200. Okay, that's the total contribution margin. Okay, so from there we can find. Sorry, I don't know why I having some typos, but let me correct this one. So for the contribution margin per unit, okay, all you have to do is just divide the total contribution margin, which is right above, divide that by the number of units, and Emma wants to sell 80 units. Okay, 80 units. So we're looking at a $40 contribution margin per unit. So from there we can find the selling price per unit. Okay. So for that one, we're looking at. You should know that the selling price per unit subtracts variable cost per unit equals contribution margin per unit. Okay. So in this case, well, we know that the variable cost per unit, that's $120 each, okay, and the contribution margin per unit is $40. So the selling price per unit is simply contribution margin per unit, then plus the variable cost, okay, per unit. Sorry, I think that's getting. So therefore, all you have to do is add 40 to 120. Okay, so 160. So Emma should sell the package at 160. Okay, so when she sells 80 units, she will earn an operating income of 1,200. Okay, so that's the last situation here. Alright, so the next slide talks about sensitivity analysis. Okay, sensitivity analysis. So basically we're looking at what if scenarios. So what happens to profit if something, unexpected things happen? Selling price changes, volume changes, cost structure changes. For example, the variable cost per unit changes. The publisher may charge more now, okay, and the fixed cost change. the conference organizer may ask for larger, more expensive rent, say 2,500. Okay, all those situations. So if that's the case, as a business person, okay, you might want to be well prepared. Okay, well prepared. For example, you might want to know how worst it can be. Okay, what if the conference organizer increases the rate of renting a booth? Okay, and what if no one buys my book? Okay, so the next slide just give you kind of example. Normally you can use Excel. Okay, you can use Excel. Then you have the formulas, you know, for most of the sales, and you can play with those numbers. So you can look at if the fixed cost increases, and if the variable cost per unit increases, and how that affect break-even point and other issues. If you want to have this target operating income, how many units you might want to sell, and the sensitivity analysis is pretty good for simple business models. Okay, if you sell only one product or two products, and if the conditions are not very complex, then definitely sensitivity analysis is very useful. Okay. However, in some cases, when you have extremely complicated business models, for example, you are looking at selling several products, 3 products, okay, or 5 products, and each one has different variable costs data you can try, and number of break-even points, all kinds of things. From that perspective, sensitivity analysis may not be very applicable. Okay, so you might want to think about some replacements. So for instance, in nowadays most people can use other advanced computer software package to do this kind of work. So I will let you read the sensitivity analysis by yourself. It's not that difficult, it's not that very complicated, and you may be asked to do a few questions. Just keep one thing in mind. It just a matter of changing some of the conditions. You have a different fixed costs, you have different variable cost per unit. Okay, you have different target operating income, and how many units you might want to sell, and things like that. Okay, so that's kind of a application here. So now let's come to the last slide in this video lecture. We're looking at margin of safety. So it's kind of indicator of risk. So margin of safety tells you that above the how far are you away from the break-even sales. Let's assume that you are making profits. Okay, but the question is how far are you away from the safety zone, because break-even means you have 0 profits. Okay, definitely you want to stay above the break-even sales. Okay, so there are 3 different concepts, okay, we're going to introduce, and each one has its own formula. The first concept is margin of safety, MOS. The margin of safety is basically the budgeted sales subtracts break-even sales. Okay, so it tells you absolute value amount. Okay, and this one may not be that interesting. Okay, because you have to understand this, although give you the entire dollar amount, okay, give you some kind of a dollar value idea. When you apply, you have to be careful, because for 2 different scales of a business, let's say that we're looking at a local restaurant. Okay, so local restaurant, a multi-million business in a year. When you look at the Walmart, okay, billion business. So when you look at the margin of safety, 1 million for a small restaurant means a lot, but for Walmart, actually it's not really great. So this only give you some kind of dollar amount idea, but when you try to compare businesses, you gotta be careful. You have to look at their business size. So therefore, the margin of safety ratio or percentage will tell you actually some better idea which business is at risk, which business is doing great. Okay. The second one, margin of safety units. So all you have to just look at a quantity. For this one, it's quite useful because it does not rely on inflation or price change or something. You just look at a quantity, just look at quantity. So all those three concepts are supplementary to each other. Okay, supplementary. So you can use one or two, and the third one, normally you should use all of them to give you the complete idea, complete the picture of this the risk issues. Okay. So for instance, if I look at MOS, how should I interpret if I get a value? For this one, you might want to explain to people that, well, this business, okay, this business is MOS in dollar amount from the break-even sales, okay. And for the MOS units, you can also tell people that this business, okay, is MOS units away from the break-even quantity. Okay, and for the last one, the ratio, okay, the percentage, you can see that this business is, MOS percentage or ratio above, okay, above the, break-even sales, All right, so now I'm going to look at this example, okay, and try to use examples to interpret the risk issues. So first, in Emma's example, we are looking at fixed cost 2,000, the variable cost 120 per unit, selling price 200, the current sales units 40. So let's find that at current sales units of 40, what is MOS, what is MOS units, and what is MOS percentage. Okay, so let me open this Excel. So I'm going to open this one here. All right, so let's look at the 40 units here. Okay, so first I'm gonna find the margin of safety. I'm going to use the conclusion that you have in previous slides. We know that the break-even units is 25. Okay, so Emma has to sell 25 units to break even. We know that already. Okay, so for the MOS, okay, we're looking at the budgeted sales, which is 40 multiplied by 200. Okay, then minus 25 times 200. Okay, so 25, that's break even units. So the so margin of safety is 3,000. So that explains that the Emma's current sale is 3,000 USD above the break-even sales. So now, the other way to explain this number is you can also say that the revenue has to decrease substantially by 3,000 to reach the break-even revenue or break-even sales. Okay, so now let's look at MOS in units, the margin of safety in units. And this one is quite easy because you have 40 units minus 25 units. Okay, so should be 15 units. So for this one, you can explain that the sales in units would have to decrease by 15 to reach the break-even units. Okay, break-even units. Okay, so that's how you explain the MOS units. The last one is MOSP. Okay, MOSP. So that's MOSP. So or ratio. Okay, so margin of safety percentage or ratio. For this one, the formula is a little bit complicated. So we have to find MOS and also budget the sales. Okay, so for the MOS, we have that already. It's 3,000. For budgeted sales, we're looking at 40 multiplied by what? Multiplied by 200. Okay. So the answer is 37.5%. 37.5%. So for this one, you can explain that the Emma's business, okay, Emma's revenue would have to decrease by 37.5% to reach the break-even revenues or break-even sales. Okay, so you can see that for this small business, 37.5 actually is a pretty nice number. Okay, but the dollar amount is only 3,000. Okay, 3,000. Okay, so I hope you understand the margin of safety here. And in questions, in exams, make sure that you know the concepts of all these issues or formulas, know how to apply them to a particular question, and know how to interpret your results, know how to explain to people how risky the business is and how safe the business is. Okay, so I hope this video lecture helps you understand lecture slides from 12 to 17. Alright, so we will come back to the rest of video lectures soon. Thank you.